Okay.
All right, everybody.
Yes.
Hello, hello. Oh my gosh. I am so excited. Alvia and I think I hope I pronounced it right. Alvia and I have
Yes.
been chatting for just a few moments before we got on, but welcome everybody. So let's go ahead and do the hellos to everybody who's in the chat room. I see Scott, thank you. Nancy, thank you. And Scott and Nancy are my bouncers. So they got the blue wrench if anybody gets out of order. And who else is here? Oh, yes, yes, Scott, Nancy. I think that's, and there's at least 4 or 5 people here. So hello, if you want to say hello and where you're watching from, you can. If not, that's all right. So first of all, thank you, Alvia, for being here with me. I saw you on the World Divination Association Pride Weekend sessions that they did on their page. And I remember just looking at you and thinking, I need to talk to this person more. I wanted to, because the whole inspiring alien and alien connection is something dear to my heart. And there's not a ton of people that I get to, hang out with who talk about aliens, work with aliens, are aliens. And I think when you kept saying like Starseed, I kept going, what is this? I keep hearing about this. And so that's one of the big things I want to find out about. So, first of all, hello and welcome.
Hello. Thank you. Thanks for thanks for having me.
Oh, it's a pleasure. And so we've got, like I said, we've got some cool people here. Hello, Chamara. Yay. So I have like so much I want to talk about, and I'm going to try not to ramble on and let you do more of the talking. But I'm going to just quickly say, actually, I want to ask you, where and how did you get connected into things alien? And the topic today, the title was Alien in a Familiar Land. And I remember looking at you on the Pride thing. I thought, gosh, it must feel like being alien, but yet a familiar place. And so Alien in a Familiar Land just kind of became my theme. And anytime I get a theme, I know it's time to ask someone to come on the channel. So where did all this start for you?
Well, basically, this started quite a few years ago. I don't know. I just kind of came across the Starseed thing around that time. I'm thinking maybe 2016, possibly. It's hard for me to say like any specific years when it comes to that, but somewhere around that time. Um, and so as soon as I came across the term Starseed, I was like, okay, that's me. That's like totally me. Because I've always kind of felt very alien and like I'm not from this world. And, even when I was a kid, I would go to my parents and like, you sure I'm not an alien?
And it's
Like,
so funny, and I remember growing up. I was the middle child of 3 boys. I was the closeted gay kid. I was obese, and my brothers were both skinny, athletic, and I was more geeky. In band and all that kind of stuff. My eyes, my almost my entire life, my eyes were green, and I was freckle faced, and my hair was brown. But I discovered at 29 my beard was red. So both my brothers are dark hair, dark eyes, no freckles, and they used to joke and say, "Oh, you're adopted." And I remember one time when I wanted to find out my blood type, I didn't know how to really do that, and everybody was O. So I said, "Are you sure I'm not adopted? Because if I'm not adopted, then I know I'm blood type O." And they're like, "No, you're not adopted." But I'm the tallest one. I mean, I'm taller than ever. I'm 6'1". My other brother's 6. My dad was a shorter person. So it's like I felt very alien within this family, and just never a lot in common. I love them dearly, and they're beautiful, wonderful people. But yeah, it was really interesting to feel that oddness kind of growing up.
yeah, I felt very much the same. Like a lot of the same type of things. Like, well, apart from like maybe the sibling stuff, well, I kind of felt, of course, I felt kind of different to my brother, but like I feel just the feeling of being different and you know all of that. Yeah.
And it's interesting because sometimes I wonder, do people that we look at, who we think, oh, they fit right into the family, do I wonder if they felt different too? It's like I wonder if, but I don't think they had that. I don't think they had these thoughts. I just don't think they wondered. Am I from another place? Is this really my family? I just don't, I felt like they clicked in and fit in a different way. And one thing I can say is it almost felt like they're all, they're from a different soul family. They're from a different place than I am. And I joined their family, on my soul contract, my mission, whatever, however you want to look at it, and I don't know if you find this issue, but it's like sometimes when I connect to like my guides and those off, not physical, a lot of times they chuckle and laugh when I ask for a name or I try to put it in words because they're like, I know it's so hard to be human because you want to put everything into words and label it, where
Yeah.
for them it's just vibration.
Yeah. Right.
It's like when I have a session with a client or I do a record a video, I always set an intention. I say, I set the intention that we would receive healing, guidance, confirmation, grounding, centering, balance, peace, harmony, alignment, joy. And it's like they're not sentences, they're just words. And for me, the word is the vibration. It's irrelevant what the word is or that I'm putting it in a complete grammatically correct sentence. It's just what, balance represents. The vibration of the word balance. It's like that's what I want. And it's like if I had, my singing bowl is like boom, that's the word balance. Here's another bowl, boom, that's the word healing. It's like that's what
Yeah.
it feels like.
Yeah.
So so I wanted to so I am a clinical and transpersonal hypnotherapist. And one of the reasons why I wanted to get into hypnotherapy was working with like the past lives, the alien connection lives. And these are my books from Dolores Cannon. And
Oh.
people, if you don't know Dolores Cannon, she was a hypnotherapist. She was this sweet little old white-haired lady who was doing hypnotherapy, and all of a sudden her clients started talking about alien stuff. They were from other planets and things like that. So she started writing this down. She was even visited by the Men in Black. She was,
Ooh.
yes. But the cool thing was, I think she was very protected because her husband was a military person. So there was a protection there. She was in the Ozark Mountains, is where she was. But like one of the first ones that I read was Keeper of the Garden, which is like Earth. And then the other one, The Custodians Beyond Abduction. And you know what? Alien abduction has never made me fearful. I don't know why. It's not that I wanted to.
Same. I feel the
It's not like
same.
it's not like I wanted to be abducted. I think now looking back, I am and was very protected. And remind me to talk about the 12 blue lizard people, entities, and that's why I feel so protected. And then she did this series of the convoluted universe. It's kind of hard to see these, but there was a giant series, um, hidden sacred knowledge. All this stuff came out of her clients. And so, it was very, very powerful. And then a week ago, about a week and a half ago, I watched Will from Atypical Tarot and Kate, the Daily Tarot Girl, do a video. And Will mentioned this book and the Extraterrestrial Species Almanac. And basically, I'm just going to go ahead and show it since I opened to it. Clarions. So basically, it has pictures and then the name, and it talks, and it's very like an almanac. It's like, okay, universal origin, physical characteristics, belief system, and most of them are part of the cosmic law of one, which is a good thing for us. And then there are some that are malevolent, rogue.
Yeah.
And then it does like cosmic agenda, their technology. It talks about their ships. It talks about their conscious ability and how they communicate. So it's like like I said, it's very almanac like. Well, as you can see, this is how much I've read in like a week and a half. I'm almost done with the book. So in case you want to check it out, people, and there it's by Craig Campabasso, who is very much into a lot of this stuff and a documentarian. So where have some of your like books and like education come from, if any? Because I know a lot of people, they don't mess with books. It's all connecting with their alien friends.
Well, for me, it's like a mix, like always kind of a mix where my kind of information comes from. So, but usually it's very personal experience based. So that's kind of, especially when it comes to all of this extraterrestrial stuff. that's mostly from my personal experience. So in like meditations and those type of things. So if I go into, a meditation or a past life regression type of meditation thing, or even just when I communicate with the beings in just like this, because usually they just pop in and I just see them and I communicate with them and stuff. So it's like that's how the information comes to me.
So tell me this, because I know this was a big trip up for me when I first started studying mediumship, because, almost every medium you see on TV, they're like, well, I'm seeing a grandmother figure. And they're like they physically see them, where 99% of the time they're seeing them in their head, not physically out there. So when you say, I see them or they pop in, is it more like the kind of telekinetic kind of thing? Is it more inside your mind versus external? Have you seen one in physical? I've told all my people, I said, let me know if you're gonna materialize in front of me, because I need to be prepared for that. But I'm okay with that. And I would say I've come pretty close to seeing what I would say was a materialized one. But also, a lot of times they'll tell me, we don't have to materialize for you because you are so psychic and you have that, your vibration is such that we can meet you in the middle. I don't have to materialize in front of you for you to get it, for you to believe it, for you to hear me. So it's almost like, I'm like, okay, if it makes life a little easier for you, it's like, you don't have to drive so far to get to my house. We'll meet in the middle. So how has that worked for you?
It's kind of both, but I wouldn't talk about like materialization necessarily. So it's not like imagine this being an alien and then it just comes here like, okay, here's an alien. It's not
Yeah,
like that. It's more like seeing auras, if that makes any
yeah,
sense, and
yeah.
like kind of the light structure in a way. And then it's almost like my third eye fills in the vision. So like then I like might see what the being would look like in nature, if that makes
Yeah,
any sense. So
yeah.
it's almost like that. Maybe you could describe this or like compare it to a an artist looking at dinosaur bones, like dinosaurs'
Mm.
bones, and then making a piece of art of it. So I guess that's kind of how my sort of third eye and my my brain and my vision works with just seeing the aura of an alien, I guess.
I love that kind of thought, like you're looking at the dinosaur bones and you put it all together. That is neat.
Yeah,
Something,
yeah.
and people hold on, because it's going to be a whirlwind ride today. I got like 20 million things I want to talk about and ask. So, I kind of asked you briefly about, like, did you grow up in kind of a conservative, Christian environment, stuff like that? I didn't necessarily grow up in that, but I threw myself into the church around 21, trying to look for truth and trying to figure out, the whole gay thing and stuff like that. And I remember, reading the Bible, and because I wasn't grown up in it, I wasn't indoctrinated into it. But I remember I've read the Bible through like probably like 6 to 7 times, because I would do it, a scripture a day for a year, and I would get through. It was like you get through 365 days, and I remember, some things that just totally didn't make sense, like the chariots of fire that came down. I look back now, I'm like, those were freaking aliens, and that was the fire landing. And then there was one about, the tall beings that mated with the humans, and I'm like, this is probably starseed stuff. But the thing that got me, and has always just blown me away, was the two accounts of creation in the Bible. And I remember going to the teacher in my mind and thinking, two accounts? What are you talking about? Two accounts? There's always just been, Adam and Eve. That's all there was. There was everything, you know. And there was something about, I read, like, the rib that was taken from Adam, because God said, oh, that's a lonely existence for him to be there. So I took the rib and created woman. And I read that the word rib could actually equate to the word like room or womb. And my brain's going, holy shit, and I looked up the word, they were parthenogenesis beings who could reproduce on their own. So it's almost like man was created as that, like worms can reproduce on their own. I guess they're parthenogenesis is what it's called, when you can reproduce
Yeah.
without having a partner. So I was thinking,
Yeah.
and God was like, God, aliens, whoever was like, well, that's a lonely existence. They don't need anybody else. They're by themselves. So it's like they separated the fact that they had to come together to create and reproduce. And I thought, that was mind blowing for me. And I remember thinking there was a movie about a human that lands on an he was battling somebody and they land on a planet. They're the only beings on this planet, and they kind of have to make nice. And it was this beautiful kind of psychological thing about they were warring against each other, but then they had to take care of each other. And at some point, he thought this being was dying, and the human was like feeling emotions for them. And all of a sudden, he wasn't dying, he was given birth. And it was like, how does this happen? And this, it's like this being then of course they explain that, in his planet, they don't have to come together to create. They can choose to create on their own. So I don't know if you've ever encountered anything like for me, mind blowing like that.
Yeah, no, it's really well. I mean, I'm not sure what part you're like referring to because you said a lot.
I know I said a
So
lot.
I'm just like,
The
okay,
Christian
yeah,
part, the parthenogenesis part.
yeah. Well, I mean, I also tried to read the Bible, but then I was like, okay, there's a lot of misogyny here, so I can't
Oh
read
yeah.
further. So yeah, that's kind of my story with Christianity. That's when, because I'm also queer and I'm trans and everything like that. So like it was always just so weird. So like I couldn't really stay with that religion, and I
Yeah.
haven't been again for
Yeah.
like many years. So
This is my religion right here. This is my fellowship
yeah.
right here. And it I wanted to touch on this, and I'm glad you opened the door for this, but trans. There's it as the topic, the subject, the just the politicizing of all of this coming to the surface. I'm 55, so didn't hear that word years ago much at all. And it was a very transvestite was probably the only place I ever heard the word trans. When I was like, in my 20s, and I keep the rise of this as a topic, as a subject, as however you want to look at it. I feel like it's another level of us humans trying to get back to where we came from, because we just talked about a being that can reproduce on its own. Not saying that that's what trans is or about, but, and please correct me, as a 55-year-old, I'm learning so much. I'm learning so much about pronouns and gender and all this stuff, so please feel free to correct me if I say something inappropriate or incorrect. But it's like the World Wide Web. I remember thinking one day, I was like, oh my gosh, we're just trying to get back to the ability to communicate beyond worlds and walls. Because I mean, you're in Finland. I mean, I can ping someone in Japan and they'll respond in a second. It's like that's that telepathic telekinesis, communication that I think most alien beings have. And I feel like we're just we keep reaching home. We're trying to get back to home, what home is for us. And the dense earth 3D world is like, no, we're not going to go there. That's fearful. I'm afraid of it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's an interesting. I mean, that this is always an interesting topic for me to talk about, and kind of my perspective is that your own soul is shining through, and it is very much like a higher self embodiment type of thing. Like it's very similar to that, but personally, I do see it as you know kind of realization of okay, you have a soul, and the soul doesn't necessarily align in the same way with your physical body and the assignments that you were given. And
Yeah.
so um, that's when you transition
Yeah.
to another way of being, in a way. So that's kind of how I would personally express that part when it comes to this type of stuff. You know.
Yeah. So I do want to say, take just a moment because I once I get into the conversation, I'm hardly looking at the chat. So I apologize, everybody. But hey, Kim, hey, Jackie, hey, Jen. I'm trying to think of who else popped in. And I think I saw a question at some point. So if it, let's take kind of a moment. If anybody has a question, oh, there it is. So Kim, Abundant Life Tarot said, what type of messages do they download to you? This is fascinating. So I'll, Alvia, I'll let you know. Say it again. It's the emphasis, Alvia.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
good. So I'll
So
let you go first.
yeah, okay. So I wouldn't call this necessarily a download. To me, download is more like a higher self thing, like an higher levels thing. But the communication, it always kind of depends on the situation, and sometimes they're helping with my energy body, or they're helping with me with something that I'm doing, or for example, just when was this? See my time thing in my brain. It just goes always like I don't remember when things happen, but this was fairly recently. I think it was a couple of nights ago, and there's this almost like an elder extraterrestrial Esasani species being that who lives in this spaceship that I sometimes go to, basically in my meditations.
I'm with you.
Sometimes sometimes I find myself in a spaceship or a space just floating, like, hello, what is up? But like this elder alien being who I communicate with is just a big part on like this, on my like current big sort of life path thing. So on like being a star guide and like practicing my skills and all that. And sometimes what these beings do is just an activation, and sometimes it's
Mm,
just like, okay, hey, you can practice this weird skill with us. Sometimes it's like, again, the Ssasani beings I have the most experience with, and there has been a group of three usually. Last time I met a
and
group of Ssasani. What?
is that Esasani? Is that like a name that is out there, or is that like an individual name that you've been given?
It's a name that's out there.
Okay,
Many people actually
gotcha.
communicate and work with these beings. Okay, so the last time I saw the group, as in previously it was three, now it's four, or at least last time it was. So they again like gave me some kind of an activation, and they've also uh, like one very kind of a like a memorable situation that I had with this star being group was uh, a thing where basically I was just walking around in the forest, and then I went to just listen to this rock. I was just energetically communicating this huge rock that was there, and then I was basically taken into the center of the world,
Wow.
the core of the earth, and then these Asasani beings came, and they came with this crystal cluster thing, and they said that, okay, this is like technology for humans or something.
Mm,
And then later on they came with the same crystal, and they were just like, put it on your heart. And I put it on my heart, and that just an activation.
wow. So
So that's the type of stuff that happens with me.
so I'm
But
making notes. So you said download and higher. So and I want to ask you because I think I know what you're talking about. So for the last 8, 9 years, or actually 20 years, anytime I say spirit, I used to say team spirit. I feel like when I'm working with spirit, it's this all collective kind of consciousness. It may not be all that is, but it feels like a giant collective consciousness of spiritual spirit energy. Now, then kind of I'll use like below, even though that just this is my human mind trying to rationalize it. Below that, would be like beings. And I feel like they are part of that upper part, but they're also like us humans, as in a kind of a physical body, things like that. Is that kind of what you meant, like versus? Because I think I know what you meant when you said like a download. A download sometimes feels like spirit dropping it in, but what you were just saying is it's almost like this dialogue, this teaching. with these beings, and that I experience as well.
Yeah, yeah, I think you understood what I mean, but I
Okay,
also
cool.
think about the higher levels also almost like there's many layers, so it's not just like here's below and here's above. It's not like that necessarily to me. That's not necessarily how I see it, but um and that's also like when you kind of go down the layers, that's where it fractalizes more.
Yeah.
So there's like more fractals of the source at the lower levels.
Yeah,
So
I
does that
love
make
that.
sense?
Yeah, and I love the way you said that, because that's something that my conversations with, my quote unquote spiritual kind of team and the aliens, it's like they again they giggle at how we have to kind of put things, because I think above and below, where I laugh too, because I realize that personally, I know there's no time. There's no time. It's an illusion that we live within. So, if someone visits us from the future, it's really just an
Mhm.
alternate universe in my mind. I don't know if you agree with the same thing, but it's just, and it's like all of that is existing at the same time. And again, it's, I guess, fractal is the way you say it. It's like we're a fractal of that, and we've created this thing called time, I guess, or it's been created for us, and we're just continuing to support that idea. And that was one of my other things, just talking about time as we think as linear, which and I love some people talk about time as like this, like a spiral and cyclical. Um, so my kind of real personal experience with aliens, probably again, and I love that you said like time sometimes is like this is probably why I'm not so afraid of like dying and death, because I'm like I don't even know about time. I don't wish time away, but it's like I'm here. Whatever happens, let's keep doing this. If I'm on a mission, if I signed up for something, I'll keep going. But probably about 7 or 8, maybe 9 years ago, maybe 10. I was laying down in bed, and Fabian, my husband, is next to me, and he's already asleep. And all of a sudden, I could actually feel the vibration. Imagine like 12 soldiers walking into the room, and in boom, 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 unison. They walked like in the room, and they were lined up. They came in and they went, like this, and they were very thin, bluish, lizard-like. Um, and thank goodness I'm at a place where I kind of go, well, this is interesting. And for those listening, I am quote unquote a human realist, meaning I realize what I'm talking about sounds crazy to most people, and the conversations I've had with beings and stuff, only when they get supported afterwards do I think, oh man, I'm just so glad I'm open to this, because I believe it, but the human part of me kind of goes, man, this is crazy, but I believe it. So it's like there's the rational part of the human physical part, but then the spiritual part of me that is willing to believe this. So these 12 blue lizards folk walk in, and I was like, wow, this is interesting. I said, what are y'all doing here? Just thought, what are y'all doing here? And I did not see them with my physical eyes, but I knew they were there. I could just see them blocking the window in my mind. And they said, well, you tell us. And in that moment, it was, this is where I would almost say it felt like a download. In that moment, it was, oh, no, they just told me. It was a remembering. Thank you. It was a remembering that I was their leader. And I knew in that moment, I was like in what we humans might call witness protection program. They were there to protect me. So I knew that they were there to protect me. And from that moment on, they were on the house, and there's 12. And I've asked them, even though I felt, they're like, well, you just tell us what you're, because you're our leader. I've asked them, always keep 4 of you at the house, 4 of you with my husband, and 4 of you with me. So if I'm on vacation or at work or whatever, they're always kind of there protecting. And like, you know, I would wake up at night and I would hear something outside or on the roof, and I would wake up and I'd have a moment of fear, and I'd go, all right, and I start calling the blues. I was, all right, all right, blues, are we okay? And in my mind, I could see them like with guns and and they're like, you're okay. There's nothing going on, and I would go right back to sleep. It was, and a lot of people, they hear a noise and they want to go looking around the house, but all I had to do was say, am I okay? Are we protected? You're protected. You're okay. Interesting thing, when we moved to this house, because they came in another house, when we got here, they weren't allowed to be here. And it was about 3 months that they weren't allowed to be here. And I knew the cypress trees around us had something to do with that. On our little property, I have 15 cypress trees making like a U around us. And cypress trees grow in swamps. They're hard, beautiful wood. They withstand hurricanes. They're just powerful. And I knew they were there for some reason, and I connected to them. But in those 3 months, our house was broken into at least 2 times. So I remember thinking, what the hell's going on? And I couldn't reach him. I couldn't reach him. And then after about 3 months, one time I was like, are y'all there? Like, we're allowed to come back. And then it was like everybody was working together. So it's almost like the property, the trees weren't allowing them to come and connect. And I was like, well, then you got to protect your house if you're not going to allow them to come on. And then over the time in meditation, entities would pop up. One of my main ones, I had to pronunciate, like speak the name out, and it was like I had to go Eliana, and Eliana was one that came. And I look up that name, and it's like one who hears God. And I'm like, are you kidding me? It's like I've never heard of Eliana as a being or an entity. I had no idea what it meant. And then recently, after kind of opening up my mind a little bit more, I started connecting, and this surgeon, that's not really what they are, but they're working with me on a 4D level, so to speak. And then there's Babat, which I believe is kind of Arcturian, kind of on a 5D level. But then Babat was allowing me to get to 7, 8, 9, where then the name that came was Aleutian, which I'd not heard of that before. But Aleutian was like helping me like in the 6, 7, 8 dimension, so to speak. And again, I think a lot of this is just in my brain. And like, I love how you kind of said like fractals. So it's probably fractals are part of that area. And I was telling you, and before we got on today, I sat in my chair and meditated, and I kind of reached out to you, and you even said some things were shifting. I was like, oh, I'm sorry. But I was taken up out of my body completely at this giant like boardroom table, which was like miles and miles and miles. And it was like all these different species were around, and I was just a light being, but I had pink in my light, which surprised them. And I was like, is this good? Is this bad? And it was one of those things like, no, we just didn't expect it. It's a unique part that we weren't expecting.
Oh,
And
okay. So I think, yeah, that might have been, yeah, because like here's the thing, I speak to so many different species, and they are very protective, especially now that I've kind of worked with kind of the cosmic law enforcement thing. So I kind of just call them to hold the space. So maybe they're just like, okay, this is the good guy. What do we do? Oh, okay, you could go.
because that's what I say. Like Eliana, who I feel is very kind of like, I say they, but it's more feminine energy, and she allows me to say that. But I feel they're very 3D, 4D. She doesn't go up to 5D, so she's very much here. Anytime somebody new pops in, I'm like, are they okay? And she's like, yeah, you just need to adjust to their energy. And that's another thing
Yeah.
that they've been doing for me, is adjusting me to the different vibrations. Because I'm like, is it okay for me to go this high? And they're like, the other day they allowed me to put my hand, quote unquote hand, into what they were saying as like the ninth dimension. And I was like, oh my God, it just feels like my hand is like vibrating, like it's in front of a woofer. It was just like boom, 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 boom.
Yeah.
And then they allowed me to go up to that the next time we kind of connected. So just bizarre, fun, bizarre
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah, I know. It's like every time you go into such high dimensions, it's like a weird experience. And like, yeah, what I was gonna say about, the lizards, I know that the lizards have very specific roles in the ET world, and one of these is protectiveness. So, for example, one of my sort of starseed higher self aspects, the lizard ones are the ones that protect me. So, like,
Wow.
if I wanna,
See, that's the kind of
uh,
stuff I love, because I didn't know that, and then you're echoing that same thing. That's when it blows my mind. It's like, oh my gosh, this shit is real.
yeah, yeah, and like, yeah, that's the thing. Like, they're sometimes they are like doing this very defensive work and this almost assertive and directive roles as well. So yeah, I feel like with the with them saying that you were their leader, I feel like, there could be something like where, yeah, you're kind of in charge of like their little
Well,
circle.
and I also remember going in a physical, like someone took me, my hypnotherapist took me to a past life, and I was on what I believe was Atlantis. I was number 9 of the 12 that were like the leaders of a community or something. And my role was going down to the beach. And I remember going down to the beach and it was orange sand. And I was collecting the crystals, and the crystals were like worms. They would work their way up the beach and I would collect them and bring them back. But I also knew that I didn't speak up, and I could have helped prevent or thwarted some of the devastation, some of the destruction. And I even remember in the past life session, my hypnotherapist, she said, "Well, tell them you're coming back." And I laughed, and she's like, "What are you laughing at?" I said, "Well, they heard you." And my logical mind, which was way up behind me, was like, what the hell? How can they hear her? She's in the future, you know? And it was just a bizarre thing. But I knew I was like I was at a board table of number 9. So I knew there was like elder leader kind of a thing. And recently I was taken back to, is it Mu or Lemuria? Which,
Yeah,
and I was so not physical there, but in Atlantis, I was a very physical being. And I also knew that
yeah,
in this lifetime here and now, it was my role to speak up more,
yeah,
to teacher of teachers kind of a thing. Um, yeah, just yeah, bizarre stuff.
yeah. You want to say something? I actually, because I have
Yes, I want to
also
see something.
had some Atlantis past life thing, but the thing is, I only saw it at the like almost like the last minute. So I don't have any other past life sort of recollection apart from this, like
Hey, Mel
just
from Willie Hermit.
being in the bottom of the sea and just seeing everything kind of muddy, and then this being that I have drew a little picture of. I'm actually gonna do a little art clearance because I just gotta get some of my some of my work out in the world. But this is
Ooh.
the one that I drew like fairly soon after I had this meditative vision. Can you see the whole picture? Hope
Lift
so.
it up just a little bit. Oh, wow. I love it. I always say to people, I don't draw well at all, at all. I always said, man, if I could draw what I see in my head, it would be amazing.
Yeah, but this is just like what I see. I'm not sure if I saw myself or which is possible. It's possible that I saw myself, but it was like
Yeah.
more in like a third person view, and I sometimes I don't actually have that even in my dreams that often, but I feel like maybe there's some kind of a symbolism. You know about dream interpretation,
Yeah,
so
even in I have hardly ever third person seen myself. Even when I'm like at the dentist and I step out of my body while they work on me, I know I'm in the corner looking back at myself, but I don't see myself. And by the way, is that a Tupperware bottle you're drinking out of?
yes.
I recognize it because I have one at work the same. Because Tupperware's the headquarters is here in Central Florida, and we ran their fitness center, so I have big connections to Tupperware. It's so funny. Um, so couple things, and I wanted we thought we'll go 30 45 minutes to an hour. Probably going to go an hour if you're okay with that. But
Yeah, I'm okay with that.
I want to talk real quick. Star being, starred seed, and then is it Melchizedek? Mal-
What?
So this is something that they keep talking about in this book, and I think um, I got to find the word so I can pronounce it. Because they talk about they're part of the star seed Melchizedek.
Yeah, I haven't heard of that actually. I mean, maybe I have heard of it, but I haven't researched it or
And
anything
it's a
like that.
biblical name, I'm pretty sure. So now I'm trying to find the word so I can pronounce it a little bit better. But I think it's Melchizedek. So tell me, like, when you say star being and star seed, what does that like mean to you?
Starseed, well, that to me is more like about this. human soul experience when your soul is not from here. So this is more about, again, that soul expression that is more extraterrestrial than something like, for example, like earthbound spirits and earth seeds. Like I talked about this a little bit in the conference. And so then what is different with Starseed and Star Being is, I'm thinking that this has more to do with where star beings are, again, assisting us from another dimension. So the star beings themselves are not necessarily incarnate here on Earth. And again, like Starseed can also be like where you have, like myself, for example, I have many different Starseed origins in this one body. So it's like my soul has many different kind of
The
varieties and fractals
the
here in this
image that
one body.
the kind of analogy that I get is kind of like how we humans have taken dogs and made different breeds. And sometimes I feel like we have been made a different breed, a different species to assist and help. And I totally believe that, there's absolute alien DNA within us and helping us
Yes, I
grow and
agree with
shift and
that.
change and all that kind of stuff. And Nancy said she believes it's a biblical king, but I found it. Yeah, it's the Melchizedek Starseed program. They reference that in here so many times. And maybe that got, I have to do a little research on that and see how it got connected with Starseed program. And maybe it's something goes back kind of biblical. Um, and then let's talk about spaceships.
Yes.
I personally have not seen any in the skies. Have I been on them? Yes, especially recently. And it's quite interesting. Um, there's this place that Eliana takes me up to, which is funny because she started calling it the Kingdom Hall, and I pushed back
Aw.
against that. I pushed back against it because that is a Jehovah Witness term. Kingdom Hall is where
Ew.
I know. My husband
At
was
first
near.
I'm like, oh, and then I'm like, ew.
I know. So, but I said, I'm okay holding on to that. But because I said, is this like the Akashic records? And she's like, you can say it's the same thing, but we're going to stay away from that. And and that could be another thing because I feel like the Akashic records or Akasha records, there's a lot of people who work with them, and I get the similar vibe to Reiki, as in there's programs and lessons and ways to work with them that have been specific to that name and that word. Do I feel like I use what people use in Reiki? Yes, I don't call it Reiki, or I might say, hey, just use your own energy. But Reiki has a lot of specifics, and I think to get to the Akashic records, there's been a program, a detail, So for me, I feel like I am in kind of the same place, but I don't call it that, just out of respect for people who may have worked to get there. But yeah, it's been really interesting. So, and then we go up, and then like I said, Babat, I felt like it's in a spaceship, but it still feels very earthy. So maybe it's just somewhere here on the planet or below the planet or above the planet. But then once I got above that, I had to leave my physical body. And they're still funny sometimes because Babat was very like just straightforward. But the illusion, they're kind of giggly and they have some fun. There's laughter there, and it's like I had to leave my physical body. And and of course I'm like, am I really leaving the body? It's like, well, you're still connected. I said, but your physical body is way there, it's not here. And like something will itch on my body and I want to scratch it, and all of a sudden I'm saying, and they told me, said, well, just remove that thought for a moment because you can come back to your physical body later. And I'll just remove the thought that my elbow itches, and all of a sudden it stops. It just stops itching. Because if I scratch it, I kind of like pull myself back down into my physical body. Where if I ignore it, I can stay kind of up out of the physical body in that light area. So
Yeah, that's a good tip, because sometimes that happens to me too. Like I'm sitting up and then like my leg gets numb, and then I come out of the meditation, I'm like, ugh, kind of just like, what the what's going on?
yeah.
So like that happens to me sometimes. Uh,
So
but yeah, what I
spaceships.
was thinking, yeah, spaceships. Uh, but what I have to say is, you said Babat is like an Arcturian, right?
I think my logical brain still works hard because that's those are very common terms for me. Palladians, Octurians. So I'm asking, is that what you are? And they're like, yeah, you can call us that. So it's like again, they're like they don't give me like a definite. So I'm like, okay, that's kind of what you feel like. So
Yeah,
maybe they're either
yeah,
connected or they just don't care.
yeah. It's like, yeah, they don't really care in my experience also. But for me, it's like it's just a clear cognizance. So it's like my higher self kind of drops that download to me and was like, okay, this is like a lizard from Orion, or this is like some other being,
Yeah.
whatever these are. And it's just a knowing. It's almost like I know it on an energetic level there. But yeah, what I was thinking is when you were saying about Babat being maybe more of like a 5D, if we want, if we want to put
Yeah.
like a box, we don't want to put a box on an alien, but if we had to, I almost feel like that could be maybe more of that sort of Lemurian thing also,
Mm,
like because Lemurian and not Pleiadian, Atlantean, they had like many different species there, so it wasn't just like one star species that was hanging out there. So I almost feel like maybe you could have seen some of those frequencies, because sometimes we can see kind of the new Earth type of layout in our realities. And
yeah.
one of my experience with this is actually related to spaceships, because my spaceship used to be in this room, and then it would expand to like a little bit further forward from me. That's where I'm sitting right now. So then there was like a portal at our couch, and then there was a portal like here in the
Wow.
middle of my room. So that was like really wacky. But now the spaceship is where my next home is. Um, so that's one thing. And then, of course, like I said, with when the spaceship started to move, then I would, of course, go to the spaceship,
Yeah.
and see it more as a spaceship. So then it wasn't like there was no Earth there, but now there's like some. I sometimes see almost like a little body of water, like a small body of water in the middle of the room, like surrounded by rocks. That's almost like how I see this room sometimes, in like energetic ways. And this usually tends to happen when I have some kind of, Lemurian activations and stuff. So like usually they kind of go hand in hand. So maybe that's what could have been going on with, your guide.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Definitely.
this is the wacky stuff. This is like the stuff that people are gonna think are like weird stuff, but I'm just talking about it like it's normal. Like I don't even care.
Well, and I always say, you know what? All the connection that I have in there, it bottom line, it helps me grow as this human being.
Yes.
But I also I've read many books that were channeled works. One of my favorite is Paul Selig. He's a good friend of mine, and it's like, how can when I read his material, I think, how can this not be channeled from somewhere else? It's the he's not versed enough in saying all that kind of stuff. So it's one of those things where, and here's where I knew I would kind of wrap things up towards the end. It's like, where does what I'm gathering, learning, connecting, where does it fall into my now human world? And somehow I want to, like, as we got about 10 minutes left, because I'll ask them, I'm like, so all this that I'm doing, is this just me taking a little vacation, visiting y'all, or said, is there something to learn? Well, Serge, that I call, which is the surgeon, as allowing me to work in four, quote unquote, 4 and 5D, out of the physical body to help people. Oh my God, the other day, I was like talking about all my physical ailments, and they're like, well, what we can do is take your original blueprint and put it back on top of you, and it's almost like resetting your computer, so that all the all the false beliefs, illusions, and ignorance you've been putting on yourself has caused, skin problems, teeth problem, bowel problem.
Ooh,
It's like,
that's so cool.
it's like basically they're saying, in my mind, I'm like, so does this mean I'm gonna live forever? And they're like, no, you're not gonna live forever, but we're gonna take that physical body, because I also believe my physical body is a manifestation of my thoughts. So of course,
Yes.
why can't? But my thoughts are also very limited, because I can conceive myself living to 120 years old. The other day I thought I can, maybe by then I'll get to 135. So in my physical mind, I can conceive that. So there's the old, I don't know if you ever heard, like, no one could run faster than a 4 minute mile until one person did it. And then finally it was like boom, 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 boom. It was like a domino effect. All these people were able to run faster than a 4 minute mile. Why? Belief. They knew
Yeah,
someone could do it.
that is so true.
Like, if you ask me, do I believe that I can physically fly? Yes, I do. But my conditioning and the conscious belief is still keeping me on the ground. Because when I'm in dream
Yeah,
state, I literally can fly until I
same.
realize, oh my God, I'm flying. And then I'm like, I'm flying, flying, flying. And all of a sudden I just slowly come to the ground because I'm conscious of it. The moment I'm conscious of it, it pulls me back to the ground. So do I believe I can physically fly like Superman? Yes, I do. Have I been able to do it? No, because I'm still living in this belief and ignorance and illusion of planet Earth. So I believe I can live to 135 because we're starting to see people live longer and longer and longer and longer. So how,
Yeah, and I mean, human technology also.
yeah.
Like that's
So
one of the big, and everything, like medicine, like everything's constantly evolving. So, uh, yeah, if we want to, we can live longer. And when it comes to the, a lot of physical manifestations of the energy that we hold, it's definitely something that um, I I don't know, can I say agree with, but like I know there's like experience like often if I work too much, I might like have my body react to
yeah,
it, or if I like do too much something. And again, like the whole thing, I feel every energetic exchange in my energy field, and then because my clairsentience is like physical also, so then
yeah,
I might feel that like on my body as well.
yeah.
So so
Bye,
yeah,
Scott.
it's like yeah, that makes total sense to me.
So when you work with the aliens, and it's funny that we even call them aliens. It's it's like, but we gotta label them, I guess, for our human minds. But when you work with your aliens and those beings out there, how do they or you, or where is the practical part back on this planet? And let's talk about tarot, because you have a tarot deck, and for me I feel like tarot is one of my big tools to help people grow. Yay, there it is. So, and they can,
Yay.
and inspiringalien.com if you want to check out more of that. But how does all of that, I mean, that's an obvious thing right there. It's an alien tarot deck. But how do you find
Yeah.
yourself working more in the quote unquote real world, from the teachings, from the inspiration, from the guidance, um, things like that?
Well, like that's also another thing that's like it almost feels like very complex at this point, and it's also something that I do keep on building all the time. But one of the big things is energy transmission. So just transmitting energy, of course, from the cosmos, from the beings, whatnot. And usually this happens when, I read the cards or if I read a birth chart or something. So, so that's kind of how that works. And then usually the beings, whatever information they give to me, because sometimes also it is, more so what you could call communication, but it's also more like telepathic. So it's not like necessarily working through like a specific clair or anything, but sometimes those it kind of mixes up. Anyway, I'm just rambling. But what they tend to communicate with me is just what to do on practical levels. So sometimes it's astral travel, sometimes it's like other things, like I said, for example, with the crystal thing. So if I have like a piece of crystal here, this could represent also what the Asasani were talking about, how we are connected to these little things, and how much there is all of this in the middle of the earth and all around the world, you know, how
I
we're
remember when I first
connected.
started experiencing crystals, I would put them in my hand and I felt they were moving, like you
Yeah,
know, and vibrating. And it was one of those other things, again, very clairaudient. I was like, people like, you can work with them, you can talk to them. And I was like, oh, really? What's going on? And they're like, I am so old. I was like, they literally were like talking back to me. So,
yeah.
so I would like to kind of finish on this. Do you think we, in this quote on life, this lifetime, will see like a full disclosure? Like, do you think we will see an alien standing next to a leader on this planet and know it? Because do I believe they're already out there kind of standing next to our leaders or our leaders? Sure, sure. I think they're out there. So do you,
Yeah, mm, yeah, I mean, when it comes to leaders, I don't know. Like, I don't know if that's the answer. I feel like it's more of a, like, I honestly feel like it's more of a gradual process where they're
yeah,
just gonna show up for different people, for those who are ready for it. You know, like when we think about the star seeds and mystics and whoever are actually communicating with them energetically, I feel like those people are the first ones to see them.
yeah,
But I feel like for those, you know, who are just rejecting the idea, they're probably not going to see them because they're not manifesting that, of
yeah.
course, you know.
Um,
So I feel like it's going to be a gradual process, right? And uh, I feel like this is also going to, depending on like just the amount of, again, like exposure to that.
yeah. And
So,
Lee Harris, who channels the Z's, was asked this question. A friend of mine told me, and said, anytime the aliens talk about, that, they're like, oh, y'all are still too much in a place of fear and war. It's like
yeah,
if we came in now, it would devastate this planet. People, it would just literally, like, everything would like physically collapse. Like the because the moment, all religion would probably just bottom out. Because people are like, what? They're aliens? And they would probably, it'd probably be like them seeing Moses coming back down from the mountain glowing, and they're like, what do we do? Let's just stay here at his feet. And we would just probably not move on. So, but anyway, so I want to bring this to a close as we got like 2 minutes left. But thank you, thank you, thank you for coming here and chatting about,
thank you for having
oh my
me.
gosh,
It
it's
was
something that,
fun.
so dear to my heart. And for everybody watching, anybody watching if you're watching the replay and you made it this far, thank you. So definitely check out Alvia's inspiringalien.com website. Let's see, your YouTube is Inspiring Alien Creations. Facebook, Inspiring Alien. Let's see, and you've got a newsletter. So check all those things out. I read through your 12 chakra um, ebook the other day. So I signed up for the
Okay.
newsletter and got that. That was fascinating for me. And it challenged me a little bit because some of your colors were different than what I feel and know and been taught, et cetera, et cetera. Like the earth chakra, the one below, that
Yeah.
resonated hardcore with me. I was like, yes, I believe that's there. And then the rest also, but the colors were really interesting. And as I read through it, I was stayed open to, why you're saying that, or you wrote them that way, and just seeing how it resonated with me. And that's the biggest thing, people. Just keep your mind open to stuff. If it resonates, hold on to it. If it doesn't, ask why. Dig a little deeper. If it still doesn't resonate, then maybe later it'll connect with you. So thank you, everybody. Any final questions, comments, or thoughts? Anybody?
From
Anybody?
me or
Yeah,
anyone?
or from
I don't
you.
know.
So, well, yeah. So thanks for hanging and talking about aliens. And if the aliens are watching, which I believe they are, thank you for connecting with us. We appreciate you spending the energy and the time. And personally, I hope I show up, and I hope that I'm a good student, and I hope that I am willing to learn and grow, and maybe not live in fear, but be a little courageous at this point.
Yes.
So
Yes,
beautiful.
that we must
All
do.
right. Thank you
Thank you so
again.
much for having me.
You are welcome. I'm gonna go ahead and
Thank you, everyone.
close down the meeting, and we'll chat in a moment. So, all right, bye everybody.
Bye.